Hi everyone, Sophie here from CompuSport. I wanted to show you today how to create a tournament. So it's very similar to creating a league, but it has a few different tools that are very specific to tournaments. So I've already done the step to create my event. So just a reminder, create my event means you'd be creating a league or you'd be creating a tournament. So I went through the wizard. It asks me the specific questions it needs to know. And then once that is done successfully, it brings me to the front page. So I get to this home page here where people can search. I put the registration tool in there, which is going to be a video at a later date. I'm not going to talk about that today. Today is really the basics of how to create a tournament. So once I have my tournament created and I click on the menu at the top left corner, you'll see with our frequently asked questions or step-by-steps or how to, I always talk in, I call it talking in code, but you go menu, and then normally it's going to be menu, manage, then I'll say like event or, scheduled charts. I go by steps and then I'll name the section below. So menu, manage, event, for example, or menu, manage, scheduled charts, surfaces, scheduler, and so on. Menu, manage, players and teams. So you'll see the step-by-steps, that's how they go, and to show you where to go. So here at the front page, I click on the menu, I get the manage column. Only someone who is admin of a tournament or a league gets the manage column with all the tools. So first thing I want to do in a tournament is I want to create my location and surfaces. So in this case, I created a tournament for darts, and this is why you see boards, but if it was pool, you'd see tables, and so on. If it was another sport, it would say surfaces. So by default, the system has one building in there. So it's got one bar and it's called bar number one. So if it's important to you, if there's a specific place, you can change the name of it. So I could just click on the building number one and I could be like casino or the Legion or whatever. So the name of the place where it's happening. Menu, manage, and now I'm going to go under location surfaces, and this time I'm going to go to boards. So I'm going to tell the system how many boards are going to be on my tournament. You can always come back to this later in case you don't know yet or that changes, but I could go ahead and put in whatever I know so far. So clicking on the plus, you're going to create one board at a time. If you already know you've got 10 or 20, you can just click on add many surfaces. So this way you'd be adding a whole bunch of them at the same time. Where are these boards going to be? They're going to be at the casino. If I had multiple bars, I would click the other one, and then I would tell the system what's going on here. So for darts, single surfaces, how many surfaces do you want to add? So in this case, I'm going to put 20. So however many boards or tables that you have at your tournament. Start at number one means that the system by default is going to name your boards, your tables 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 20 in this case, because I said start at 1. If I say start at 20, it's going to name my boards 20, 21, 22, 23, and so on. You can change the name of them later if they need to be specific. So here in this case, I said 20 boards, and I just want them to start at number 1. So I'm going to say okay. So here I get a lot, basically a row for each board that I've got. So by default, the system has named them 1 through 20. I can name them, I can change the name of them, whatever I want as well. So I'm leaving them just like that. My next step is to click on menu, manage, and this time I'm going to go under divisions and divisions. Division groups is not necessary. Big tournaments find this maybe a little bit more useful. They might put in singles or team sections and so on, and then have like the divisions inside the division. So the way I see it is like when you create, let's say, folders for pictures. So you might have a folder called summer, and then inside your summer, you might have like Disneyland, and then your next folder under summer would be, weekend, camping weekend or something like that. So you don't need a main folder to have the small folders. You can just go directly to divisions. So this is what I'm going to do today. So menu, manage, divisions. So as I mentioned, divisions are kind of like folders. So the way I see it is like you have a folder and you're going to take in your registration. So if you had like a men's division and a women's, or like a mix, you could have different folders for them, and then you'd put your registration in each folder. So basically you're going to need a different division for all the different brackets you're going to have, or different tournaments that you're going to have on the weekend. So here I'm in the divisions, and I'm going to click on the plus, and I'm going to create my division. So in this case, I'll call it like mix doubles or something like that, or men's 8-ball, or you know, singles, or I don't know, blind draw, or Jack and Jill. So whatever you want to call your division. So the basics is I need a name. I can change the color. I suggest having different colors for all your different brackets. This is useful in another tool that I'll show you later. So the name, the color, the type. So if it's a team or singles, this is really important because the system will act differently depending if it's a team or singles. And then the game type you can put in there. You don't have to, but if you want to, if it fits or whatever, you can have the game type in there. The rest are, I'd say, more detailed tools, but right now, today, I'm just looking at the basics. So name, color, team or singles, save. If I have multiple brackets on the weekend, I'm gonna create another folder. So in this case, Jack and Jill, color, team. And then the next one, singles, 8-ball. I know I made a dart tournament, but I just want to kind of get everyone to get an idea of what divisions are really. So color, and this time singles, and then save. All right, so for now, I'm just going to go with 3 different divisions, but you get the idea. I can just name as many as I want and put them in here. And then here I've got different columns. The is active, you just want to leave it on. It makes it available for you on other pages. The is public is when you're ready to make that public, so that players can start finding themselves on the app, and so they'll be able to see their name and see what division they're playing in. So once you want them to see that, you make it public. We always suggest doing this a few days or weeks before your tournament. This way people can start getting ready whenever you make it public on the app. Someone who already has an account, John Smith, for example, will receive a notification saying, hey, we found a John Smith in this tournament. Is that you? Poor John Smith, there's probably a lot of them, but I just wanted to use that as an example. So whenever you make it public, you check the box and then you can click on save to save your changes. The other public option that's in there is show division opponents list. So some might want to just kind of show the divisions, but then if you want to show the opponents that are in there, especially for registration, if you wanted to, if people are allowed to see who's in there or not. So, but the main one is public. So you're going to make these public once you feel ready that you want players to be able to see it online. Next step, menu, manage. We've done our divisions. We're not going to have to go back in there until we make it public. The next step would be to put in your teams or your players, or if you're an on-site tournament, you can kind of skip that part for now and then go ahead and make your brackets to get that ready. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to skip players and teams. I'll come back to that, and I'm going to create the brackets for my tournament. So if I had some round robin, I can do that as well in a tournament. But today I'm looking at the brackets, which is the one that's used most often in the tournament. So click on brackets, and then here I get to an empty page again. It kind of looks like the divisions page, but this time what I'm doing is I'm going to create brackets, and I'm telling the system what names from what folder I want. So which division I'm going to choose. So here I need to make brackets for all of my divisions. So division mixed doubles, it names it the same by default. then I choose the size. So I've got some single eliminations, I've got some double elimination. Let me explain to you a little bit here what you're seeing. So for example, double elimination. So whenever you see a 2 out, 4 out, those are for tournaments that have bigger brackets. And instead of having one huge 128, for example, we always suggest breaking them down so that they are easier to read and see on any computer, on any TV screen, on the app. And then basically it's kind of like you're making your big bracket and then you're cutting them down. So you kind of got to do the math, you know, if you've got 4 double elimination 16, you know, instead of having like one huge 64, for example, and then you'd say like 2 out, 4 out, or 8 out, meaning that how many are coming out of the double elimination 16 to go into the final bracket. So basically, because you've cut it down, and then who's going, you know, who's passing kind of the round where they're going to go into the finals. So that is maybe a video for another day, just because it's a little bit more complicated. I'm just going to kind of stick to the basics, but I thought you could understand the 2 out, 4 out. So if you're not doing brackets that are going into a final bracket, you do not want to pick the ones that say 2 out, 4 out, 8 out. You want the ones that say nothing at the end, or the ones that say no prolongation. So no prolongation means that, you know, at the end when you have to beat the person twice, especially if the person, you know, is on the winner's side, the person comes from the loser's side, and then they have to beat that person twice because that person hasn't lost yet. No prolongation means, no, you know what, whenever they get to the last match, whoever wins, wins. So no prolongation would do that. The double elimination with nothing means that the person who comes, the team that comes from the loser side to the winner side has to beat that team or player from the winner side twice in order to win. So I can choose the double elimination 16 here. I can tell the system roughly how long I think my matches will last. So like 30 minutes or 60 minutes or 15, your races to play. All the other settings here are for another video. It's not the basics. So I'm going to skip over that for now, and I'm going to click on save. I could mention though what's in there. So let's say I wanted to go back and make some changes. If I click on my mixed doubles, I get a pencil, so I can go back to my window. Public visibility is, you can decide what you're going to make public. Sometimes you want the bracket to be public, but you don't want the schedule, the times, and all that kind of stuff. You want that hiding. Here you can decide if you want the points or the wins to be on the bracket. You can decide if you want a custom value next to a player's name. So like let's say you had some PPDs or something and you want to show them, or some type of rating and you want it to be written next to the person's name. Information on the match card. So if you're using the system that prints out match cards, you can write some information in there. The printing, you know, where you want it to print. If you had 2 printers, you could decide that some are printing in one room, some are printing in the other. Score input would be if you wanted to like enter score sheets. What do you want to enter? Do you want just the scores? Do you want the wins? So lots of little details in there. So that could be explained in another video. So here I've got my mixed doubles. So I'm going to click on the plus now. I'm going to create more brackets. So if I've got my Jack and Jill, and maybe my Jack and Jill is a double elimination 32, it's not going to a final, 15 minutes as well. And one more, my singles 8 ball. I'm going to leave it to a double 32 again. And then I've got my 15 minutes. I could change that. Maybe 8 ball would take longer. I don't know. Let's say 30 minutes for this one. And now I've got my 3 brackets. It's listed here, the size of them. So if anytime I need to change the size of it, as I showed you, you click on the bracket pencil, and then you can change the size. You don't want to do that once the names are on the bracket, because then you'll lose what you've shuffled. But right now it's kind of free to go to make the changes, because I have not put the names onto the bracket yet. So I'm going to close out. All right, so for the initial setup, we've got our divisions, we've got our brackets, and now I can put in my registration. So few options. Registration, you can send an import to CompuSport with first name, last name, and a third piece of information like an operator, where they're coming from or whatever. But if you're going to start typing everything out in an Excel spreadsheet to send it to us, we always just suggest to go ahead and go straight on CompuSport, go into teams or players and put your players and your teams in here directly. And then the other option, which I'll talk about in another video, is the tournament registration tool. So you could have players register themselves directly online on the app to get into your tournament. You can choose if they're just registering and then sitting on a waiting list, and then until they've paid you. And then once they've paid, you can check that they've paid, and then they'll get into your tournament directly. Or you could also use that the players can register directly online and they can pay their fees right from there. So you would have to set that up. So those are some options that are there for you. So let's say I'm not taking any of those, the paying or the registration options, and I'm just going to fill them in myself. So I can go into teams, for example. So menu, manage, players and teams, and then teams. When you're entering teams, it's easier to enter the team and put the players in the team rather than put the players in. And then after that, it's kind of like you have to do a double step where you then have to create the team and then tell the system what players are in it. So if you've got teams, I always suggest putting in the team first and adding the players. So you're doing one step instead of doing two steps. So here I'm in teams, and then I want to choose the division. So it's like I'm opening up my folder. As you can tell, I've got 3 divisions, remember, but I'm in teams. So the system is not showing me the singles division because this is not where I fill out singles division. So it's only the teams. So let's say I've got my mixed doubles and I want to put my teams in. So you select the bracket and then the division, and then at the top you say add team with members, and this is where you could either auto generate a team name. So whenever I put teams in there, the names, the system would autofill and name the team name by the first letter of the first name and the last name, or they have a name. So if they have a name, I'm going to uncheck the auto generate, and then I'm going to name them team 1. Very original today. And then when I find the players, I type in the name. The system suggests some of the same names that it finds on the system. And then you want to find the best fitting. And if you're doubting that it's one of them, if it doesn't fit, then create a new one by clicking on click here to create and add this new player. But if it's one of them, then just click on the best fitting one or the most recent, and then select them. So I'm going to select myself, and then I'll select my hubby's name, Francis, and I'll choose this one, for example. So this is going to be our team. So I'm going to click on OK. And then I move on to the next. So add team with members, team number 2. And then I go ahead and add names. I'm going to put in my colleagues. So David here at the office, and I'm going to put in Christian. As you can see, the more information I put in, the more it's going to narrow it down. So here I've got Christian, and then okay. So I keep doing that. So I keep putting teams in. Oh, and if I want to move on to my Jack and Jill, I can move to the Jack and Jill. Or the other thing I can do as well is if Francis and I, for example, are also going to play in the Jack and Jill, I could grab, so I select team 1 and I say add to a division. So basically I'd be copying it over to Jack and Jill. So I'm putting myself and Francis in the other tournament. If I look at the all list, I would see all the teams I have in my tournament. I see the divisions that they're in. So see here, the team 1, Sophie and Francis, they are in the Jack and Jill and the mixed doubles. And David and Christian are only in the mixed doubles. So I can go back and forth that way, or I can go to mixed doubles, and then I could grab one of the teams and I could say that I'm removing them from the division. Maybe they're not playing in that division anymore. If I want to add or remove names to the team, I'll remove my face in the corner here so you can see. So if I click on team 1, I'll get the roster here on the right hand side. So I can add more people with the little plus in the man figure, or I could remove someone. So maybe I'm not playing anymore, somebody else is going to play, and I can delete the person and add a new one. So lots of things to do in the teams. You can move stuff around. You can add or remove players. Our system is able to create teams. Like let's say you had a blind draw, you can put in your players and the system could shuffle the teams. You could decide how you're shuffling them in as well. So just know that that is also an option. So you can keep putting your players in there. Here you see that there's 2 teams in a 16 bracket because I've created my bracket so the system can tell what size I chose and then how many players are in there. So two man figures is teams and the 1 is the number of players. If I wanted to put some singles in, menu, manage, players and teams, and then players. So see how the players show up here? They're the players that I put in on teams. So they show up here. And this is why I was talking about putting teams in, putting players in, because you're doing it one step rather than putting them here as singles and then having to go pick them later. Let's say now I've got my singles league the singles bracket that I want to put in. So I'll click on my singles. So I've got no one in the singles, right? I've got in the all, I've got some people, but if I go into the singles, as of right now, I've got no one. So let's say I wanted to put some singles players in. I can click on the search and add a player to this division. And let's say I put in myself. I'm going to play into the singles division. So when I put in my name, you'll see that the system is suggesting someone that's written in white. See how I've got a white font here and someone that's written in green? The difference between the two is the white means that this person is already in your tournament. So it's suggesting to take that one because it's probably the same person. So I can click on Sophie. Same thing, if I put in Francis, see how Francis, the system already detects someone that's in your event. So it's suggesting Francis Cote. So then I can put him in and I can keep doing that. I can put in brand new players as well. So like, let's say Maddie, I'm going to spell it differently oh, no, Maddie exists. So then I can click here to create and add this new player. Very important to try to pick from the server. So this helps not create duplicates on the system. So choose as wisely as you can, if not create new players. And then you've got your players in there. Let's say I wanted to shuffle teams. Remember I mentioned shuffling teams earlier. So if it wasn't a singles division, I would have put in the names, the players in here. And then I would click on create shuffle teams. And this is where I could choose if I wanted it to be a pattern. Like I could say, I want it to be a male and a female together. I can say, I want it to be a balanced skill. So it's going to be a high, strong person with a low person. It's going to balance them out. So lots of ways to shuffle the teams in there. So this is how you do your registration, basically. So you can bounce back and forth between players and teams. If you got teams, put in the teams first. You'll see that the players list will autofill itself into the all for the players that are playing in there. I can select them. I can say that they are playing in a division that's in here. So add to a division and say my singles. And I can add them that way. I can also remove them. So David's actually not going to play. Turns out he's not going to play. Remove from division. All right, so lots of fun under players and teams. So basically, if I've done all my registration, now I would be ready to shuffle my brackets. So I put in the tables or the boards. I created my divisions. I created my brackets. I put in my teams and my players. Next step is filling up the brackets. So we have a tool that you can tell the system how you want them to be filled. So under brackets, we've got a tool called fill up brackets and round robin. So if you click on fill up bracket here, the system would let me choose which one I want to fill up. So right now they'll look a little funky because I only have 4 teams in a 32 bracket. So I've got the list here. I can choose how I'm shuffling them in. So it could do random. I could do seated by like the city they're coming from or by the operator they're playing in. I can do high versus low where you've got a high team playing, like let's say you had named them 1 through 16 or something like that. So like 16 could play versus team 1, and then 15 would play versus team 2. With the custom values, you could give them a different standing order, basically. So here I've got my random. The system can detect that with 4 teams in a 32 bracket, you would need 28 buys. So obviously yours wouldn't look this way. Or then what I should do is I should shrink my bracket. So I would go back to menu, manage, closed manage, brackets, and then change the size of it, like if I didn't have as many as I figured, or if I've got more. So you want to make sure that you change the size before you go ahead and fill up the bracket. So when I'm going to go back to fill a bracket, I choose the bracket I want to shuffle. I say that I want to do like random, for example. Maybe I want to keep a few TBAs, so to be announced. So I don't want to make them all buys. So out of 28, I'm going to make 4 TBAs. So the difference between a TBA and a buy is a buy, someone will get a notification saying, hey, you know what, you're playing against a buy. So the person knows they have a buy in the first round. A TBA means, you know what, you don't have an opponent right now, but it's to be announced. So perhaps you will have a match in the first round, kind of keep watching out. And for scheduling, TBAs will also take up a spot thinking that it might need to be scheduled, whereas buys will just kind of move themselves out of the way and won't be in the way of scheduling. So that's another difference between the two. So let's say I said here, I do try shuffle. Then I get the example on the right-hand side here. Christian would have a buy. See, my TBA would play against this person and so on. So obviously it looks funky right now. I don't have a lot of players. And then I would click on accept results. When you click on the accept results, you'll see that the bracket is filled. So you're going to see this order in the round 1 on the bracket. So I'm not going to do accept results right now just because I've got so many buys and whatnot, and I just don't want to spend a lot of time creating other players just to kind of show you, because I want to show you more stuff. So I would have clicked on try shuffle and then accept results, and then I can move to the next one and say, okay, I'm going to do my Jack and Jill now, try shuffle, accept results. Okay, so I can keep doing that. So you do one by one. Next step is the scheduling. So depends on what you want to do. 3 options. Do you want to have a bracket that has all the times and all the boards or the tables assigned ahead of time? So you would see a bracket and you'd see all the times and all the boards on there. Or do you want to use constant play? Constant play is our tool where you'd have times on your bracket, but the board or the table will get assigned whenever it becomes available. This saves you time, because if the table 5 or board number 5 is taking a lot longer than you were expecting, well, then our system would move forward and just use another board that's available and assign it. So it's it'll save you time rather than having, one super long match and everyone else is waiting to play on it. So that is called constant play. It's got times on the bracket, but no boards. Continuous play, and this is used a lot for darts. Continuous play is where there are no times and no boards on the bracket, and the system will assign the boards as they become available. So basically you'd be getting a notification because the system assigned a board to you at the time of when it was available. So I'll explain in another video how to set those up. But basically those are the scheduling tools that you need in order to run your tournament. So here I'm going to go to the chart. So now that I've done all my setup and now it's like tournament time. So I would hang out in the light blue icon section under scheduled charts, because I've got all my tools here for the tournament. So I'm going to go to the chart I wanted to show you. I'll go to the singles 8-ball. So here I have my 32 double elimination bracket. And in this case, it's not shuffled, but if it was, you would see the names on there. I wanted to show you that if you don't use the shuffler, so I hear of a few tournaments that have this tradition where your name is getting picked out of a hat, for example, and you're getting like a spot on the bracket. So if you didn't want to use the fill-up brackets, you can come straight onto the chart and you can literally write the names on here. So let's say my name got picked out of the hat first or whatever, I can put in my name. So I type it in here and then the system suggests my name because it's finding me on that players list, right? So then I click on myself and then we keep going and oh, Francis gets called out second or whatever, and then they keep going that way. So I'm going to put my 4 players that I have right now. And so the names would be on the bracket, obviously all of them. And then I would have the board and the time listed in here once they get assigned. And then this is how you can advance the winners if you're doing things manually. So if I'm doing it manually, I would click on the winner. So like Francis won, let's say. So I click on Francis and I set as winner. So it advances Francis and it sets me back onto the loser side. So here, our system would detect that the table or the board's now available and it's going to assign it to someone else. And it's just going to keep doing that. Another option is to get the players to be scorekeepers themselves. So what they'll do is, if it was myself, for example, on the app, I would see a match, Sophie versus Francis, and I could set the winner and then it would advance the bracket. You can have it send an approval from the opponent. So Francis would have to say, yep, that's right. I won or I lost or whatever, whichever side it goes. If you don't want to do that because you don't want to lose time with the receiving a notification, having to approve and all that, you can just kind of let it be without approval. But players are receiving a notification saying that they've lost or they won. So from what I've heard from tournament managers is they prefer doing that and saving that time of the few seconds in between and just kind of fixing the problem if it comes through, just because people are being notified anyway. So then you would know, hey, wait a minute, that wasn't set right. I'm the one that won. I got a message saying that I lost. I know it sucks to receive a message that says you lost, but it is really important because it's kind of helping you know if the bracket is advancing properly. So I'm going to leave it to that for the basics of the tournament. The other new thing as well that I want to mention while we're here is the all. So we call it the manager dashboard. So whatever page I'm on, so see, it's whenever I'm in the menu. If it's there when I'm on the boards, it's there when I'm in divisions and so on. Basically, it's a bunch of little things that we notice that we're asked very often. How do I make something public? How come my players can't see the bracket? I want to use scorekeeping. How do I do that? So basically, when you click on the all on the manager dashboard, the system is suggesting a few things like, hey, you know what, we're noticing your bracket is not public. So if you want to make it public, you can say fix. So you've got all your brackets. The system is also detecting that your event's not active yet. So nobody can see it, nobody can find it on the system. So do you want to make that active? So then you can fix that as well. Do you want to put the scorekeeper on? We're noticing that your Jack and Jill's not shuffled. So just a bunch of little things like that are helpful during a tournament. So always check it out to see what the system is suggesting. So like right now, I know it's not public, but I don't want to make it public right now, but at least I know, what are the things that are kind of like left to do before the tournament. So check out the manager dashboard once in a while. I'm going to leave it to that, and I'm going to make videos on a little bit more complicated things just to kind of keep it as short as possible. So these are the basics. So as mentioned, there's the menu, manage, and all the tools are under here. If you want to have the step-by-step of how to create a tournament, we also have it available in the FAQ page. So the frequently asked questions. So you can say like set up tournament, you'll write set up tournament, and it's going to bring up the step-by-step. So everything I mentioned today is literally written step-by-step and how to put it in there. So thank you very much for watching, and have a fun tournament. Thank you very much and have a nice day. Oh, I stopped sharing, so you get a big face. I'm going to stop recording.